Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DeFirio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by La Marzocco. They are the quintessential espresso machine in the coffee industry because for almost 100 years, they have been creating some of the most beautiful, innovative, and consistent quality espresso machines that you could ever hope for. Since 1927, all of the machines have been hand-built in Florence, Italy. And today, La Marzocco is used by some of the world's best coffee bars. A testimony to their innovation comes in the form of machines like the KB90 espresso machine, straight-in locking portafilters, scales in the drip tray, auto flush in the group head. All of this helps the work of the barista. It helps with ergonomics and workflow and cleanliness. These are things day in and day out that make a huge difference in your bar. This is just one example of many different types of machines that La Marzocco has to suit your needs exactly. So I would really encourage you to reach out to them. LaMarzoccoUSA.com is their website, but reach out directly to their salespeople and have them help you get the right machine for your shop. To do that, reach out to info@LaMarzoccoUSA.com and they'll get you hooked up with the right gear for your cafe. If you're looking for the best quality, then La Marzocco is a real sure bet. Go ahead and check them out again over at LaMarzoccoUSA.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Espressly, who's creating custom branded mobile apps for coffee shops. One of the great advantages that independent coffee shops have is this unprecedented connection to their community and to their customers. And through a custom branded mobile app from Espressly, you can create the feel of your cafe in the palm of your customer's hand. You're not just another dot on a map with Espressly. Your customers get the convenience and the connection to your brand and the feel of your coffee shop. And, it's a no-risk model when you work with Espressly. There's no setup or development fees. You get a drive-through payment scanner, receipt and label printing capabilities. All of the data is stored in the app, and it integrates with some of the world's best payment processing systems. Of course, that includes Square. So if you've been on the fence or if you're deciding on trying to integrate mobile apps into your cafe, give Espressly a shout. To do that, just reach out to them over at espressly.co. That's espressly.co. Okay, everybody. Well, today I wanted to give you just some thoughts that I've been having about talking and the idea of mentorship. One of the things that we do is that we get involved in competitions. We get involved in these tracks of progress in our careers. And you take on something like this, you want somebody to be a trainer. Now, in our careers, we have trainers who are there, hired by the company to help us get up to a standard that we are responsible for executing in the coffee shop, right? In competition, you'll have a coach. A lot of people don't have that, but most people who make it really far in competition, especially, are people who have coaches and people that will help them along the way. And, of course, these coaches are paid. Most of them are paid, and some aren't. And some are just doing it out of the goodness of their heart. And that's kind of where I want to go here and say, we are used to kind of a pay to play model of mentorship, at least in the sense that we expect it within a certain structure, but we don't expect it outside of that structure. And that's why when it happens voluntarily, it's so valuable to us because the person who's reaching out to you or offering you advice, it feels like, wow, they really and truly care about me. And when we experience a relationship where there's this concern over the progress that we're making and that we're making good decisions, and somebody is speaking into our career just out of the goodness of their heart, it really is meaningful because, again, we expect that we're going to have coaching and training and mentorship within places that we work or things that we've hired people to do for us, whether it's you've hired a consultant or you've hired a coach or something like that. But I always tell people, and I've said it on the show before, There's a wealth of knowledge around you waiting to be tapped into, whether you are an owner that can learn from staff or staff that can learn from owners, or just people within the community who are separated by miles but connected by the internet. Digitally, the community is very available. The thing is, though, that this doesn't happen as often as I think it probably could. Younger people might not seek out the advice of veterans in the industry. Older people at SCA shows or at Coffee Fest will walk around. Nobody knows who they are. They may have decades of experience, decades. And people will maybe rely on a show like this or other podcasts to kind of examine that career, and it's their first exposure to that person. One of the things that I think should be a part of your development professionally is seeking to learn from people who have gone before you. And as I get older and I talk about that, it really does seem self-serving, right? Because I'm like, oh, you should ask me questions. I am blessed to have a podcast, and I can speak and you can listen or not, you know? And so in a way, I feel like this is a bit of a mentorship opportunity for me. But even then, I am, and I've always been pretty willing to speak with people for at length, you know, whether that's through DMs or emails and, you know, face to face at events. And just really, I want to listen and I want to talk, and I want to offer something of value, especially as I get older. I think a lot of people in the industry who have been in it for years and years and years, it start to really get this desire to help, and the wisdom that comes from experience, all of that stuff, you know, it's a power of perception that's gained through experience that is not only something that's helpful for the individual who holds it, like for me and the wisdom that I have from just all, you know, the successes and mistakes and the ups and downs of life, but it's also something for someone else, right? And I wish that more people would come up to me and talk to me and ask me questions about stuff, you know. And if, imagine the younger generation of baristas and coffee professionals would seek out knowledge from people who have gone before, there's a lot of mistakes that they make that wouldn't be made. Maybe you would have to prepare yourself to hear uncomfortable truths. Now, you would also have to be prepared to admit that you don't know everything. And this is also the case for people who are older in the industry, where you might not be seeking out opportunities for mentorship, but you're also not seeking out opportunities to learn from the younger generation, or to be open to changing your mind on certain things that you once knew and taught. You know, I know that I've taught many, many different things that have been completely disproven over time. At the time we thought we knew what we were doing. And so, but as the industry evolves, we change and we learn together. And I could have been better about seeking out learning opportunities from those around me. I don't know. There is this feeling that we have that to admit that we don't know is to admit defeat. And there is an enmity between the older and the younger. You're just old, kind of with that old saying, old and in the way. Multi-generational community is a stronger community. But when everything is siloed into age brackets, it doesn't really help. The stories die literally with those who die. And we imagine that we can't learn from them because they didn't live in our time. And our time is, you know, so very unique. And only the people who live now can actually speak to what is now. And that's the most foolish garbage I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I'm fully a proponent of the idea that there is nothing new under the sun, it says in Ecclesiastes. Yeah, I mean, truly, the things that I've heard people say about, you know, what has been invented or is new, you could probably go back 20 years and find the exact same thing or more. And there are people who have navigated the rise and fall of different trends. And as humans, if you believe that we are more similar than we are different, then that's the first step, I think, in seeking out opportunity to commune with those across generational divides. I think it was Tom Henschel's podcast, The Look and Sound of Leadership, and they were talking about mentorship and networking, especially. That word networking kind of has this bristly quality to it, like, ooh, networking. It sounds very smarmy, very, American Psycho business card scene esque. And so let's just set that aside for the moment and look at the idea of connection and the fact that relationships are born from consistent just connection over time. So you might not like walk up to somebody and be like, hey, you look old. You want to be my mentor? But you might introduce yourself. I respect your work. I do this, that, and the other thing. You've really inspired me in these ways. Follow them on a social media channel if they have it. And maybe a few weeks after that, reach out again and just ask them a simple question or promote something that they're working on. And invest into the relationship over time. And as you make little points of contact over time, you will create familiarity. And that will create this mutuality that is more likely to create a relationship that is a mentorship style relationship, where it's not this awkward, hey, I would like you to be my mentor, or hey, I would like to speak into your life, young person. But you're basically putting yourself in a situation on purpose over time with patience where you're kind of looking for that. And that's a great thing. So when you're at a trade show and you're only hanging out with your friends, like only your friends, and they all happen to be like the same age, all look and behave and act and believe the same things. I mean, that's fun. I'm not going to say I didn't do it, but are you really growing? Are you taking advantage really of where you are and realizing that next to you and around you, past that threshold of maybe this risky move to introduce yourself to a new person, get to know them, etc., is a lot of benefit. It's easy for us to stay in our silos, to stay in our lanes. So how can we break down these barriers? Think about all of the built up institutional wisdom in the industry across the supply chain. All of the solutions that could come to bear if we didn't create these barriers between age groups and realize there's a wealth of knowledge and opportunity across that divide. So no matter where you are right now, you can always learn from the people around you. And I would encourage you to think about how you can foster mentorship style relationships, especially if you're younger and you've got a lot of questions and things are very fresh. Look to see who you can learn from. Find people that can contribute wisdom to you. And if you're listening to this and you are in the older age bracket and you've got some years in the industry, do the same thing. Look for those opportunities, contribute how you can, and make all of this happen on purpose. Because if we're not doing this on purpose, then we're just going to be stuck in the same place we've always been. I hope that all that makes sense. And, true to form, some of this shift break might be Chris working out his thoughts with you on a recording, but let me know what you think. I hope that this has been helpful. Thank you very much for joining me on this episode. And as always, I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.